Welcome back. Now, let's go from one blonde to another, because I'm joined now by the former Chief of Staff to Donald Trump, former US representative from South Carolina. He's got up very early for us, so we thank him for that. And former Special Envoy to Northern Ireland, Mick Mulvaney. Mr Mulvaney, thank you very much for joining me indeed. Now, what's your initial reaction to Donald Trump's indictment on federal charges? This is unprecedented, isn't it?
Yeah, two reactions. One on the legal front, I used to practice law, and then another on the political. I was in office and also obviously served with President Trump. The legal case here looks very, very strong. I doubt very seriously the government would bring this case against Donald Trump if they did not think they had uncontrovertible evidence against him on every single one of these charges. Politically, a different story entirely. There doesn't seem to be any damage here. Keep in mind, one of the critical elements is, what did Donald Trump have? And to whom did he show it? And the indictment seems to indicate he only showed it to one or two people, certainly no foreign leaders, no foreign governments. He didn't try to sell it to anybody. So what you've got a situation here is a technical violation of the law with none or very little damage to the country. It's sort of hard to imagine that they would indict a former president if the national interest wasn't damaged. But that seems to be what's happening precisely here.
OK, well, he won't probably reconsider his pledge to be the next US president, but should he, Mick?
It doesn't make it. Should he? I don't think he should run anyway, because I think he's going to lose. I think Donald Trump probably wins the Republican nomination. By the way, I don't think any of this changes because of these indictments. I think he wins the Republican nomination and then loses the general election to Joe Biden or to whoever the Democrats happen to offer. It looks like it will be President Biden. But he lost in 2020 because he lost a great deal of his support in the middle of the country from 2016. He's not done anything to get those folks back between 2024 and now, between 2020 and now. So I don't want him to run because I think he's going to lose. But he doesn't. He stopped asking me what I think a long time ago. Donald Trump is going to continue to run. Keeping in mind, under our system, he can run from prison, he can win from prison, and apparently can even serve from prison. So no, you can fully expect Donald Trump to continue running for office in 2024, regardless of this indictment. How
likely is a prison sentence, do you think?
Based on the indictment, fairly significant. There's, I think, 37 or 38 charges. And so many of them are connected to the obstruction of the justice. It's not the underlying crime. If Donald Trump had done what Joe Biden did here, what Mike Pence did here, when they found their classified documents, they gave them back. And there's no charges against Pence. There's not going to be charges against Biden. The difference here is what Trump did to try and cover up what he did in the first place. As is so often the case, it's not the underlying crime. It's the interference. It's the cover-up that gets folks in trouble. And they have him with significant evidence, it looks like, as to obstruction. So I think the chances of a guilty verdict are fairly high, and the chances of real jail time are pretty high.
And when you say real jail time, how long might that be?
Well, at his age, it doesn't really make much difference, right? I think the maximum, if you add up all the math, the maximum could be over 500 years. The minimum would be 100 years. But he's in his late 70s now. But I have no idea. You have to wait and see, go through the trial and see how the jury reacts to the evidence that they see. But anything at this point at his age would be a considerable period of time.
I was speaking to Nigel Farage, who's close to Donald Trump, a little earlier on the show, and he was talking about how this is going to only serve to embolden the MAGA fan base. You talk about Donald Trump not being able to defeat Biden, but who do you think out of the other Republican candidates could? Are you a Ron DeSantis fan? Are you favouring Mike Pence? Is there another Republican candidate that could actually topple Biden?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that pretty much any of the leading Republican candidates right now would likely to crush Joe Biden in a general election. Keep in mind, if it's Biden versus DeSantis or Biden versus Nikki Haley, Biden versus Mike Pence, that becomes a binary choice between two people. And Joe Biden is extraordinarily unpopular right now. His approval numbers are very, very low. But if it's Biden versus Donald Trump, it becomes a referendum on Donald Trump. This is the same dynamic that existed in 2020. And I think Trump would lose in 2024 for the same reason he lost in 2020. It wouldn't be a choice between him and Joe Biden. It would be a referendum on him. Do you like him or not? And right now, a majority of the country does not.
Quick answer to the following question, Mick, if you don't mind, just to bring it back to domestic matters. Lots of people have made comparisons between Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, not least after his resignation statement. What do you make of it all?
I think the Trump thing is much more serious. Keep in mind, the allegations here is that he took classified information, that he showed it to people that he should not have done. I get the seriousness of the issues during COVID and so forth, but I see a dramatic difference here in terms of the gravity of the underlying event. I find it honestly hard to imagine that someone has to quit Parliament over whether or not they had a party in their office. This is a very different matter with Donald Trump.
Although he did mislead Parliament as far as the Privileges Committee is concerned. That's quite a serious offence here.
I get it, and I understand. Like I said, I'm not trying to say that one is important and the other is not. I'm saying in terms of the gravity of even if it's misleading Parliament, what is it misleading Parliament as to? This is Donald Trump supposedly had documents dealing with our military abilities and our nuclear programs and could have given it to folks who should not have seen it. In my mind, those two things are night and day.
Mick Mulvaney, thank you very much indeed for getting up so early to appear on the show. It's really much appreciated.